Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another Magic in the Basement. Continuing my Commander homebrew series, which seems to have been popular the last couple of episodes. I figured I'd continue with another deck of mine that I play. I enjoy. This is actually my most competitive deck. Um, I think I've played with it a lot. Um, Granted, it has lost, but it has the highest win ratio out of all my games. And as you can see, it's a partners deck. Partners, I think it was in what 2014 or 2015. I forget the year, but they came out with the partner commanders, where you could have two commanders as long as they both had partner. Um, and so yeah, you can mix and match your commanders. But I found these. I like these colors. It's got four colors. Um, as you can see, it's blue, black, green, and whites. And I enjoy it. Um, Now, granted, some games I don't even use them. To be honest with you, some games I use them quickly. It depends rather on my opening draws and what I'm going up against. Now, disclaimer: this deck is far from budgets. I repeat, far from budget. It has some very expensive cards in it. It has a bunch of higher end and a bunch of mid range cards too. So, like I said, far from budget. And it's not exactly complete either because there are some upgrades I would like to do with it in the future. But it's, like I said, it's got the highest win rate of all of my decks so far. So, with that said, let's get into it. All right, as you can see, we have our partner commanders. First is Thrasios. He's 2 mana, a green and a blue. Okay, and what he does is he's a 1/3 Merfolk wizard, which the Merfolk part doesn't matter, or the wizard. It's his ability is 4 mana, colorless, scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield tap, otherwise draw a card. Now, this ability actually is quite powerful. It might not seem like it, but people who are play competitively understand the power of card draw. And with this ability, you can have not only card draw, but you can manipulate with the scry mechanic, which you're going to get. Um, and the fact that he doesn't tap, you can. It's a mana sink. You can use it over and over again as long as you have the mana available. So actually, with this, you can get. There are some infinite mana combos in this deck. This is a combo deck. I should say. I should have said that sooner. It's a combo deck. It really has no theme, rhyme, or reason to it other than it combos and it has a lot of control. So if you do get one of your infinite mana synergies combos going with this guy on the field, you pretty much can win the game because you can draw out your deck until you get what you need to win. This guy, I actually use a lot less often, but I picked this because I like the colors. The other commanders, I didn't care for their colors, and I have used this guy once in a while and play because he does have recursion. It's like if they have at the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, like if they kill one of my combo pieces that I need back, or if they kill a creature that can get me card advantage or whatever, you'll see in the creatures in a moment. But yeah, if that be the case and I need to get it back, he's a 2/2 flyer for 5 mana, and he has that ability to recur. Also, he gives all creatures I control +1/+1. So those are my commanders, partners. Now, how partners work is with partners, real quick, instead of having 99 cards, your additional partner takes one of those card slots. So you can have 2 partners, and 98 other cards. Also, when dealing with commander damage, each one of my commanders is an individual. So, which honestly, in this deck, I've never even come close to winning with commander damage. Honestly, most of the games I win, I've never even attacked in them. But that, even though the partner mechanic states that these are both individual creatures, if they're both on the field, things that bounce one only bounce the one. They aren't linked in any way other than they're just partners. You know, so you know, if one dies, the other one still lives, etc. Unless it's obviously a board wipe or something like that. But for all intents and purposes, they're their own unique creatures. All right, so that's the commanders. I'll sit them back there. Alrighty. Now, this deck has 4 planeswalkers in it. First off, we got good old baby Jace. And I like this one. I like the background. This is the one from the Signature series. I hope they do more because I love the backgrounds they do. He's 3 mana for 3 loyalty. He has +2, each player draws a card. -1, target player draws a card. -10, target player puts the top 20 cards of his or her library into the graveyard. Now, I don't use him for his +10. I never even worry about it. Even if he has the ability to do that, I don't even bother with it. You know what I mean? It's not why he's in here. He's pretty much a political card. You know, a lot of cards in this deck, because it is a bit slower. It's got a lot of political cards in it. You know, so with him on the field, you can be like, hey, don't attack me. I'll let everybody draw a card. You know, there's a lot of politics with this deck because it can be slow. Although I will also say it can win on turn 2 if you get the right cards. It can go infinite on turn 2, but that has only ever happened to me one time because you need very specific cards. But again, politically, he's a good card because everybody can draw. And nobody wants to kill the guy who's helping everybody out. You know what I mean? Now that can backfire because, you know, if everybody's getting a card acceleration, that could mean that their deck can go off quicker. But it's something to you know, think about because, like, if you have counters in your hand or things to stop stuff, you don't really mind. So, and also his -1. You know, if people are getting farther ahead on the battlefield, you know, you can always just go and pick yourself. All right, so that's him. Put him aside. Then we have Narsets. Now, I like this one because I want to put Ugin in here, and Ugin will actually take her spot. But for right now, she's fine. She's 6 loyalty for 4 mana. She's got +1 of look at the top card of your library. If it's a non-creature, if it's a non-creature, non-land card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. So if it's an instant or sorcery or artifact or a planeswalker, it's card draw, pretty much. She's got a -2, which is when you cast your next spell or your next instant or sorcery spell from your hand, it gains rebound. So that's a pretty good one. And then her -9 is her ultimate is you get an emblem. Your opponents can't cast non-creature spells, which really shuts things down a lot. People never let her get that far. I usually use her for her either her card draw or her rebound, depending, you know, what I have in my hand. Yeah, but when she gets close to ultimate, she gets a lot of hate. Then we have good old Teferi. He is a great card. As you can probably see, this deck has a lot of its control aspects so far. He's got +1, draw a card. At the beginning of your next end step, untap 2 lands. Okay, now, those untap 2 lands is a must. If you look at the Oracle rulings, it's a must. So if you don't have 2 lands to untap, you have to pick opponent's lands to untap. Really silly that this actually came up because, in all honesty, if you could just tap your own lands, float mana, and untap them, it's never a big deal. But apparently, there was some shenanigans that happened at a big tournament or something. They had to oracle it, whatever. All right, then he's got -3. Put target non-land permanent into its owner's library, third from the top. So if they got a nasty permanent, creature, artifact, whatever, planeswalker that's about to go ultimate, whatever, you can set them back with that. And then his ultimate is you get an emblem. Whenever you draw a card, exile target permanent opponent controls. Very powerful. Yeah, he draws a lot of hate when he gets close to his ultimate as well. Although I have won a game where I gone ultimate with him and the next planeswalker on the same turn, and it's pretty much game over. All right, and the next planeswalker is Big Jace, the Mind Sculptor. So yeah, there was a game recently I won because I went ultimate with Teferi and Jace on the same turn. It was like Christmas land, and I never had that happen before. It was amazing. Okay, anyway, Big Jace, if you don't know, he has Fate Seal, which is +2. Look at the top of target player's library. You may put that on that card on their bottom of the library. So you can look at the top of a dude's library. If it's a spell they need or a spell that's going to hurt you real bad, you can be like, nope, put it on the bottom. Or if it's, mana and they're mana screwed, you can be like, nope, put it on the bottom. Granted, they might get a better spell or another mana because you can only look at the top card, but they might not. So it's, I've used this and a lot of times using that strategy of if they're mana screwed or mana flooded even, and they're looking for that top deck, that powerful top deck. That's a very powerful ability. He's got a 0 ability, which is Brainstorm. Draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards back on top of your library in any order. He's got a -1, return target creature to its owner's hand. That's very powerful. You can do a lot of stuff with that. And then his ultimate, which you never get off unless you're living in Christmas land, which happens once in a while, is -12. And it states that exile all cards from target player's library. Then that player shuffles his or her hand into his library. So that means you take away their library and you take away their hand, and then their hand becomes your library. So if they got, 7 cards in their hand, now they have no hand and 7 cards in their library. If they have no cards in their hand, then they have no cards in their library, and then they lose on their turn. Or if you make them draw a card, So yeah, pretty good stuff. Those are the 4 planeswalkers I have. All right, we'll be moving on to sorceries. Now, I only got 3 sorceries because I like to play things at instant speed in this deck, but we'll show you what they are. They are Fumigate. Good old Fumigate, board wipe. Destroy all creatures, gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. The 1 life, it's kind of cool. It's not really necessary. This is mainly just a board wipe. Then we have another board wipe, but this one you get to choose 6 mana, and this one exiles. So this one is, deals with things that, like Marin or Muldrotha or whatever, where they keep recurring stuff, and you just want to stop that shenanigans. This one you can exile it. Just say, nope, you're not getting them back, I don't care, and that's that. So you get to pick creatures, artifacts, enchantments, or planeswalkers. Okay, then we got Saheeli's Artistry, which I've had in other decks, and it's a good card. I like it because you can choose one or both, and there's never an instance where I haven't chosen both. You create a token of target. You copy an artifact, make a token, and then you copy a creature, make a token, and it's an artifact in addition. So yeah, good stuff there. I usually pick something big on their field or something that hasn't entered the battle trigger effect, which is always fun. All right, let's go on to enchantments. So we've got a few enchantments. We've got 6 enchantments in this deck. We've got good old propaganda, 3-mana enchantment, and these are defensive enchantments. These creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 colorless for each creature attacking you. So yeah, if they got a swarm army, nope, you want to use those creatures somewhere else, unless they got a ton of mana, whatever. It just persuades people not to attack you. Ghostly Prism, same thing in white. Next we have Ristic Study, common, goody, oldie but goodie. Man, back when I was playing Prophecy, I swear to God, I had stacks of these. I never realized how good they were. They were commons, for crying out loud. Wish I held on to them, because these puppies are like 10, 12 bucks each. Anyway, 3-mana enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may draw a card unless they pay an additional 1 colorless mana. So yeah, it's pretty much taxing them for every mana every spell they play, or you get card draw, which is a great, it does kind of get old to ask, are you going to pay an additional mana for that? Or I like to say, kind of draw a card. You know what I mean? To just remind them, if they don't pay the mana, you draw a card. Love the card though. Next, we have Revel in Riches. Now this is an alternate 1 condition. It's 5 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature and opponent dies, create a treasure token, and treasure tokens are, you sack them for add any color mana. Anyway, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. Okay, so yeah, if there's a lot of creatures on the board and you got this out, no one's going to board wipe because you won the game. Or if you got a way to, I've used this with cloning mechanics to win the game by making treasure tokens. Or if you got other stuff that makes treasure tokens, as long as you got 10, no matter where they came from, you win the game. Great card, alternate 1 condition. And also, even if you're not looking to get the win the game condition off of it, it makes mana, pretty much. You know what I mean? So if they blow this up before you get to 10, you can still use those treasures as the mana. Then we got another alternate 1 condition. 4-mana our aura, enchantment aura. Can you enchant an artifact you control? At the beginning of upkeep, create a token that's a copy of enchanted artifact. Then there's a period after that. So this is very important. It doesn't have to be the creature that you're copying. But if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, you win the game. So yeah, it's making a copy of whatever it's enchanted to every turn. But, for example, if you have 8 treasure tokens, you win the game with that in play, instead of the 10 because you won it off of this. If you have 8 soul rings, you win the game, whatever. If you got 8 Thropters tokens, you win the game. So, this is great win condition. Also, it makes, you clone whatever artifact you put it on, which is pretty good because I got some pretty powerful artifacts in here. All right. The last enchantment is one of the most expensive enchantments in this deck. Actually, one of the most expensive cards in this deck, if not the most. It's Power Artifact. This is a reserve list card. It's got a lot of weird text, but pretty much what it says is you enchant an artifact, and then any activated abilities on it other than mana abilities, like I said, other than mana abilities, cost 2 less. They can never become 0. And I'll show you the combo with that right now as we go into artifacts. This is an infinite mana combo with this artifact, Basalt Monolith. You can also use this on Grim Monolith, the same thing. It's 3 mana for it doesn't untap. During your untap step, you tap it to add 3 colorless, and then it's got use 3 colorless to untap it. So what happens is you enchant it with Power Artifact. So now that 3 mana to untap it now becomes 1 mana to untap it. So then you add 3, spend 1, untap it. Add 3, spend 1, untap it. It's infinite mana. And then you can use the infinite mana in whatever ways you want. But that's one of the infinite mana combos. Alright, moving on to our next artifacts. We got Signet. Another Signet, different colors. Another Signet. Another Signet. Lots of mana rocks in this deck that are artifacts. Then we've got good old Soul Ring. And then we've got good old Thought Vessel. I like this one not just because it's a mana rock, but because you have no maximum hand size. And then we got Darksteel Ingot. Let's see. Then we've got good old Gilded Lotus. Gilded Lotus, 5 mana. It creates 3 mana of any color. So lots of mana rocks. Then we've got another political card, which I like. It's simple. Each player draws a card. You put this out, like I said, it's kind of like a Jace. Everybody's drawing cards, and people are happy, and they're less likely to attack you and kill you if you helping them draw cards. Alright, then we've got Howling Mine, another drawing card mechanism that works for everybody. Then we've got good old Elixir of Immortality, because you never know when you want to get your library back. I mean, your graveyard back into your library. This card has saved me many times from milling myself out, because I don't actually have a Laboratory Maniac in this deck. I'm thinking about getting one and putting it in. Still on the fence, but yeah, it's just good. I mean, you gain 5 life as well, but that's never really the reason why you like this one. All right. Paradox Engine, great card, 5 mana. Whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. So this is a great card, especially when you got mana rocks out. It's almost infinite mana with mana rocks, because as long as you got spells to keep going, you keep playing them, you keep getting mana back. Boom! It's just like an endless cycle. You know what I mean? It can be grouped into a infinite mana combo, so it is very good. And yeah, generally when this hits the board, late game, mid game, late game, you usually have a big turn and usually win, because this is a great card. Next, we've got Sensei's Divining Top. Another great card. Should be in a lot of my decks, but I only have one right now, and it's in this one. Good old Sensei's 1 mana. Pay 1, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. Then you can tap it, draw a card, put Sensei's Top on top of the library. So yeah, it's just card manipulation. You can always set up what you're about to draw, and if you need it right then and there, you can draw it and put Sensei on top of your deck. Alright. Then we've got Helm of the Host, another powerful artifact. It's an equipment, 4 mana with a 5 equip cost. At the beginning of beginning of your combat, beginning of your combat, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except this token isn't legendary if the creature is legendary, and the token gains haste. Now this can loop into an infinite turn combo, which I've done quite a few games with the Time Stream Navigator. Okay, so Time Stream Navigator, it's a 1/1 for 1 mana. And then if you got 10 permanents, you can use its ability, which is Pay 4, put Time Screen Navigator on the bottom of its owner's library. Take an extra turn after this one. Use this only if you have the Blessing. Right. So what you do is, this guy doesn't have haste, right? But mid to late game, you got this out. You equip it. You play him and equip him. So then your token has haste on your combat step, and you use the token's ability to get your infinite turn, because your token doesn't go onto the bottom of the library, obviously, because it's a token and it dies once it leaves the battlefield. But you get the extra turn on your next turn. This guy's still there. You get a token. Use the token's ability. Rinse and repeat. And yeah, infinite combo. Also, this is one of the creatures in the deck. All right, next artifact is Teferi's Puzzle Box. This card is amazingly powerful in this deck with another combo. And if you're catching the theme here, like I said, it's combos. Anyway, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player counts the cards in his or her hand, puts them on the bottom of his or her library, and then draws that many cards. Okay, so if you got 7 cards in your hand, you put them on the bottom of your library and draw 7 cards. Now, that combos with, I'll show you real quick, that combos with this guy. Another artifact, but this artifact creature, Psychosis Crawler. His power and toughness equal the number of cards in your hand. He never attacks. That's not what his purpose is. Whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life. So in this deck, you have tons of cards in your hand. Probably always 7 mid-game. You're always got at least, I would say, 5 cards, if not more. If you got the Thought Vessel in your, out and play, your hand probably is way more than 7. Anyway, every turn you're going to just be hitting everybody for damage, because say you got the 5 cards, you shuffle, you put them on the bottom, draw 5, so everybody loses 5 life. Boom! Every turn that's happening. Very, very potent. Now, here is another piece of that. Now that's a combo by itself, but if you add this Consecrated Sphinx in with that combo, he's 6 mana, flying. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw 2 cards. Okay? So what happens if these are all on the field, what happens is on your opponent's turn, say they have 4 cards in their hand, they put them on the bottom of their library, then you can draw 8 cards, because they put them all in the bottom of the library and drew 4. So then you draw 8, deal 8 damage to everybody. Next opponent does it again. Boom! You're drawing double what they drew, and that's just not in their draw step. That's in their entire turn. So say they do 4 because of Teferi's, and then they use a spell that does maybe draws 2 more. Or you have the Howling Mine in play. These are all cards that help with this combo. Or if you have the Temple Bell, you can tap it to make them draw cards. There's lots of cards in my deck that make other people draw cards. So with this combo in play, it's very potent, very lethal. All right, so let's move on. And by the way, except for the Psychosis Crawler, the Sphinx and the Puzzle Box are both potent on their own, but in combination with those other cards, they're almost, lethal game-winning cards. All right, and our next one is Isochron Scepter, 2 mana, imprint it, and it comes into play. You imprint it with a instant card that's 2 mana or less. And then you can pay 2 and tap the Scepter, and you cast the imprinted card without paying its mana cost. So you put something like Counterspell on it, and then as long as Isochron isn't destroyed or stays in play, you have an endless counterspell. Now, with that, there's also an infinite mana combo, which I'll show you in a moment, with the Isochron. What I do like to imprint on that for the infinite. Granted, this is situational because sometimes you don't need the infinite mana. Now, if you imprint this, which is an instant, 2-mana instant, it untaps all non-land permanents you control. So with with that imprinted on it, as long as you have 3 mana rocks, 3 mana from mana rocks, so a Soul Ring and a couple of signets, or Soul Ring and a Thought Wrestle, or Gilded Lotus. For example, say you got Gilded Lotus out and you imprint the reversal. What happens is you tap the Lotus to get the 2 mana to activate this. You activate it, so this casts. Then the Lotus untaps, and this untaps, and everything else untaps, as long as it's not mana, not lands. I'm sorry. So all your creatures have vigilance, and they can use their activated abilities over and over. All your mana rocks reset, and you just keep on doing it, because as long as you have more than 2 mana in mana rocks, like I said with Lotus, you have 3, you're getting +1 mana each time you do it. And with this example of the Gilded Lotus, it's any colored mana. So, infinite mana combo. Alrighty. By the way, you never just want to use this by itself. This is always part of this combo. I've never really seen a scenario when I want to use this by itself. Alright. Now, I'm leaving the Scepter there because another thing you can imprint on it is Flash. Let me try to get more in focus here. Flash is a good card to imprint on it. Or you can imprint Counterspell. I have Counterspell in here, classic Counterspell. 2 mana, counter target spell. It's great. Or you can imprint one of my other favorites to imprint on it, and another highly expensive card in this deck is Mana Drain. Mana Drain is a counter spell that's 2 mana, but at the beginning of your next main phase, whatever you countered with it, you get that much colorless mana on your next main phase. So, let me see if I can get that in there. Focus better. So if you counter a spell that's 4 mana, at the beginning of your next main phase, you get 4 mana. So, on something, if you put it on Isochron Scepter, that's reusable over and over again. It's very, very powerful. Alright, now Flash, what Flash says is, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you do, sacrifice it unless you pay its mana cost, reduced by up to 2 colorless. Let me get that out of the way. Okay, so that's a good card. Now, it's got a combo with, where is it? This next creature, which is, now it works with any creature you have, but it works best with this guy, Protean Hawk. Okay, Protean Hawk says when he dies, search your library for any number of creatures with cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less, put them onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. Okay, so, and X counts as 0 for converted mana costs. So what happens is you flash Protean Hawk into play. You don't pay the additional 2. He instantly dies. He triggers. You search your deck for the cards, and it's part of a win combination. Okay, but another thing you can flash into play is things like Arena Rector, which is 4 mana for a 1/2. When he dies, you may exile it. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle your library. So, what happens is you can flash him in, he dies, then you search for a Planeswalker and put it into play. Very powerful. You can actually get that off on, like, turn 2 or whatever. It's very quick if you get the right cards. Um, very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. But anyway, that's what you do. Um, Now, next creature we have is Spellseeker. Spellseeker says when it enters the battlefield, you can search for your library for an instant sorcery card with converted mana cost 2 or less. Put it in your hand and shuffle your library. So it's pretty much an enter the battlefield search for answers. You can grab a counter spell. You can grab flash. You can grab Cyclonic Rift, which I'll show you in a second. You can grab lots of. It's got lots of targets in this deck. Lots of different targets. So it's a very powerful card. Yeah, so there you go. Next, we've got this guy, 2 mana, Baleful Strix, or however you pronounce it. Flying Death Touch. When he enters the battlefield, draw a card. Simple card draw. Also, I've had my Helm of the Host on this guy, and then pretty much you're making every combat phase, you're making a Death Touch flyer that draws your card. Pretty strong. And you can always put the helm on something else as you get it later, more powerful cards. Platinum Angel, 7 mana, 4 for flying. You can't lose the game. Your opponents can't win the game. Pretty good. We've got Eternal Witness, 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you may return a target card from your graveyard to your hand. Love that because it's target card in your graveyard, so you can get back a creature, get back an artifact that they blew up. That's part of a win combo. You can get back, an instant sorcery, whatever you need, you can get it back. Worm Coil Engine, 6/6 for 6 mana. Death Touch Lifelink. When it dies, you create 2 3/3 colorless Swarm artifacts. One has Death Touch, one has Lifelink. This is a very powerful card. It's a very good blocker. It deters people from wanting to attack you. It's just good stuff. This is a new addition I put in here. Good old Psy. When you play an artifact, create a Thropter, and then you can pay 2, sacrifice 2 artifacts, draw a card. There's so many artifacts in this deck, like with the Signets and stuff, and Recursion and stuff. You can get tons of Thropters to sacrifice to draw cards. Alright. Good old Torrential Gearhawk. 5/6 for 6. He's got Flash. When he enters the battlefield, you may cast an instant sorcery. Just instant. Just instant. You may cast an instant card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If you do, exile that card. So yeah, you can flash him in and cast a counter spell, cast a whatever spell instant that you need at that time, cast board wipe, whatever you need. It's there. What I like to do, is pop him in and then cast something like Settle the Wreckage from my graveyard. Settle the Wreckage exiles all attacking creatures. Granted, they can search their library for that many basic land cards and put them into play taps, but it exiles their creatures, So it doesn't just kill them, it exiles them. And when you can play that card twice, because you played it the first time and then Gearhawk it out later when they're not expecting it, it's very, very powerful. Just something to keep in thought of, or like I said, other counter spells or whatever you need. It's an answer getter. All right, and then we've got good old Shroom. He 5/5 for 6 flying. When he comes in the battlefield, you return a target artifact from your graveyard to the battlefield. Remember that can get any artifacts, so it can get that Gearhawk back. So you could play a Shroom, put the Gearhawk back, get another answer from your graveyard, or you can get back paradox engines. You can get back isochron scepters. You can get back whatever you need. That's an artifact at that time. Love the recursion. Return to dust, pretty basic. You exile artifact or enchantment. If you do it in the green phase, you can exile an additional one. Alright, what else do we got? I was doing creatures and now I'm on instants. Sorry about that. I kind of got my wires crossed. We've got Scavenging Ooze. Pretty much simple card. It's graveyard hate against, cards like, decks that do a lot of recursion. It's just graveyard hate. We've got Yahani or Yahani, I don't know how to pronounce it. He's got haste. He's a 2/2. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 on him. And then he's got sacrifice another creature. He becomes indestructible until end of turn. Pretty much, he can get really big, but that's not really his purpose in this deck. He's pretty much a sacrifice outlet for a combo. But he's good on his own, but he's part of an infinite combo that wins. I'll show you in a moment. We've got good old Mikaeus. He's got Intimidate, 6 mana. Whenever human dies, whenever human damages you, destroy it. All non-human creatures get +1/+1 and have Undying. Now, what Undying does is when a creature dies, if it doesn't have a counter on it, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter on it. So they, if you're, let's say Eternal Witness dies, and you got this guy out, it'll come back, and it gets +1/+1, and then it enters the battlefield effect again. But what I do like with him is the Walking Ballista. Now, Walking Ballista's XX for 0/0 enters the battlefield. X/1 counters on it. You can pay for it, put an extra 1/1 counter on it, or you can remove a 1/1 counter on it and deal 1 damage to creature or player. Now, what you do is here's the win combo. Okay, so with these 3 out, you win the game. What happens is you can cast the Ballista for 0. You don't have to put any mana into it. As long as Mikaeus is out. So what happens is you cast it with Mikaeus out, you cast the Ballista for 0, it dies, and then it comes back with a 1/1 counter on it. Okay? Now you've removed that 1/1 counter on it to damage a person. Now Mikaeus gives it +1/+1, so it doesn't die. So what you do is after you remove the counter, you sacrifice it to Yahini. It doesn't have a counter on it because you took the counter off to hurt somebody. Then you sacrifice it with Yahini. It dies and comes back because of Mikaeus with a 1/1 counter on it, and you repeat. So with those 3 out, you pretty much win the game because you can ping every opponent for as much life as they have. So if they have 40 life, you can do it 40 times and then move on to the next player and next player. This is an instant win. Alright, next we'll go on to finishing instance. Also, let me point this out. With the flashing of the Gearhawk, like I said before, you flashing in your Protean Hawk, you can grab Mikaeus, because he's 6 mana, and your Walking Ballista, because it's XX and it counts as 0. So when your Protean Hawk dies, you can get both of these out. So that means the only other thing that you'll need for the combo is him. Just something to think about. Alright, instances, we have some Mystical Tutor, 1 mana. You search your library for instant sorcery, put it on your top of your reveal it, shuffle your library and put it on top of your library. It's a tutor. We've got Blue Sun Zenith, instant. Target player draws X cards, then you shuffle Blue Sun back in your library. This is a win condition when you have infinite mana, because what you do is you can when with infinite mana you draw all your deck out, then this shuffles back into your deck as your only card. Okay, then you draw it, mill someone out completely. They lose the game. It shuffles back into your deck, and again, since it's only your only card, you draw it, and then repeat. And you use the draw of your commander or other things that let you draw. There's so much in this deck that let you draw, and so once you get infinite mana, this pretty much wins you the game. Then you got a great defensive card, Teferi's Protection. What happens is it's 3 mana for instance. Until your next turn, your life total can't change, and you have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. And then you exile Teferi's Protection. So what this means is pretty much you can't be hurt. It's like you're not there. It's like, you can't be targeted by anything. Nothing, you're just going to die, etc. This is pretty much one turn. You're immune to everything. You're not even there. This is how I actually ended up going ultimate with Jace and Teferi. They were at ultimate levels, and I needed one more turn to use their ultimates, because you know how you get a Planeswalker to its ultimate level, and then you have to wait until the next turn to use it. So what happened was I got them to their ultimate levels, and then I just played this Teferi's Protection to phase out, so I couldn't get hurt, they couldn't get hurt, and then I won the game next turn. Alright. Then we've got Cryptic Command, great counter spell. 4 mana, 1 and 3 blue. You can choose 2. Counter target spell. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. Tap all creatures your opponents control, and then draw a card. So generally what you do is you either counter a spell and draw a card, or you can bounce and tap. It's very versatile, very, very versatile. Alright. Then we've got Flusterstorm. It's 1 blue, counter target instant or sorcery. Spell unless its controller pays 1. Storm. When you cast this, copy it for each spell before this turn. You may choose new targets. Now, this is great at the end of a long chain, like because it copies itself, you know what I mean? This is a clutch for counter wars. I've been in counter wars where I've countered someone's spell, and then they've countered my spell, and then I've countered their spell, and then they've countered mine, and then what you do is you Flusterstorm when they're tapped out, and then you win the counter war. Alright. Pact of Negation, 0 mana, 0 mana, counter target spell. At the beginning of your upkeep, pay 5. If you don't, you lose the game. This is like a last-ditch effort Hail Mary thing, where if you don't counter that spell, you lose. And it comes out of left field, because even if you're tapped out, you can counter something. Because it's a 0 mana spell. So, people think, okay, he's tapped out, let me go for the win. And then, nope, boom, you counter their vital part and just pay for the mana next turn. Alright. Metal the Mixture, 2 mana, counter target instant or sorcery spell, which I never use with this. I always use this for its transmute. You pay 3 and you discard it. Search your library card for the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it, and put it to your hand. What I normally do is when I transmute this, I search for my power artifacts and then use on a Basalt Monolith for the infinite mana combo. Or, it can also search out things like Isochron Scepter, or, any 2 mana spell in here. Good old Nexus of Fate, the very controversial buy a box promo. Lets you get an extra turn for 7 mana. If it goes into the graveyard from anywhere, you shuffle it into your library instead. This is also a card that you can get infinite turns with, because if it's the last card in your deck, you can play it, take an extra turn, shuffle it back in your library, draw it on your next turn, repeat infinite turns. Cyclonic Rift, one of the most clutch cards in Commander, I believe. It's 2 mana. Return target non-land permanent to its you don't control to its owner's hand. So it bounces a permanent. Or you can pay 7 and bounce all permanents you control. You know, all non-land permanents. Very, very clutch. This card can win the game in most instances. If you have the right board presence, you just bounce all their stuff, and then on your next turn you just win. If you have the board presence. Alright, so that's everything except for our mana base, which we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 basic lands, 2 forced, 2 swamp, 2 islands, 1 forced, 2 swamps, 2 plains. So that's our 7 basic lands. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 29 non-basic lands. So this deck has 36 lands in it. Alright, our non-basics, Inventor's Fair. It's you gain a life, which isn't really the big deal. Its main thing is you can search for an artifact if you sack it, but you can only do that when you have 3 or more artifacts. It grabs stuff like, for your combos, like if you need your Basalt Monolith or you need your Paradox Engine or whatever, this grabs it for you. Bajuka Bog for graveyard hate. Overgrown Tomb, Shockland, Sunpetal Grove, Checkland. This guy I like because it helps you draw cards, and each player draws a card, so it can be political. You can be like, "Hey, don't attack me. I'll have everybody draw a card. Yay!" When you have your Sphinx out, you end up saying, "Hey, everybody draws a card," when in fact you end up drawing 8 cards. Okay, next. Another check land, cycle land, battle bond land. I like these because most of the time you have 3 opponents, or at least 2, and so it comes into play untapped. Another check land, shock land, cycle land, shock land, commands tower, because every commander deck should have that. Classic pain land, cycle land, reliquary tower, shock land, pain land if you have an artifact, but it's more like a City of Brass, because it can get any mana by paying a life if you have artifacts. Field of Ruin to get rid of their non-basic land. It's just land hate for if they have a land that you just can't let them have. Horizon Canopy. Pain land with a draw mechanic if you want to sack it later on. Check land. Check land. Check land. Pain land. Battle bond land. Shock land. fetch, fetch, and fetch. Now, that's all. That's the deck. Also, here's a tip. If you're going to use fetches, what you can generally do to speed things up is, and of course, this is if your group allows it, but I've never had an issue with this, is know what land you're going to get. For example, Polluted Delta, I always grab Watery Grave with that. So I'll be like, okay, crack my Delta, search out Watery Grave, let them know if it comes into play tapped or not tapped. I bring it into play non-tapped. So I always here's how I do it. I take 3 damage, crack that. Delta comes into play non-tapped, pass. That's if I'm passing. Those are like the early turns. This just lets you when you do that, you can search your library for it while someone else is taking their turn. It generally speeds things up a little bit. But again, that's if your group allows that. All right. So, yep, that is my competitive EDH deck. Like I said, it's got the highest win rating of all my decks so far. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you thought about this deck. Do you think it's something that you would play? Do you like combo decks? Because I know some people, they just hate combo decks in general. They don't like to play against them, and they don't like to play with them. So let me know your thoughts on combo decks. Also, let me know if you would, change any cards in this. What would be some upgrades that you could think of offhand that would make the deck better? Leave it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.